spectrum nerds. We're just two broad spectrum nerds. When your IP is in a straitjacket, we won't attack it, we'll just give it reconstructive surgery. We're your two best friends. I'm the bro, I'm the sis. We know your story's coke and that you're an addict, but we love you too much to let you go down like this, so we'll hug you close and shout, no, broad spectrum nerds. We're just two broad spectrum nerds. When your IP is in a straitjacket, we won't attack it, we'll just give it reconstructive surgery. We've got ideas for years. I'm a vet, I'm a teacher. We make a meat quesadilla, feast in our cafeteria. We are two broad spectrum nerds. Broad spectrum nerds.
Welcome to Broad Spectrum Nerds. This is the very first episode. I am the brother host. This is the sister host.
I'm Nichole.
Evans. Did I introduce did I say my name?
You didn't actually say
I'm
it.
Joshua Evans.
It was
I'm the brother host, Josh.
It was just silence. I didn't know what to do.
This is the sister host. So, Star Wars comes out next week. And as many of you may know, with the sequel trilogy, it has just been beloved and widely accepted by fans everywhere, and there's been no questions and no controversy at all whatsoever. Okay, that's not true.
No, it's clearly not true.
However, the internet is a dark and lonely place.
It is.
Full of many horrors and negativity.
And dark people.
And dark people. Wow, did not know she was going there. And so, instead of saying like, oh, we're tired of having our expectations subverted, or anything like that, or fighting the, just not getting, it was in our theme song. We're not really here to knock down anything or rip anybody's art or work to shreds.
No.
There's a lot of
bigger and better things.
Exactly. There's a lot of evil people on the internet for that. We're here to give you what our sequel trilogy would have been. We've got notes. And cue the music. I don't know if we're going to have music cued, but I set us up.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny.
I believe it was the third or the second to last trailer for the Rise of Skywalker, where I hit my sister up, sister host, Nichole, and I told her, I was like, I would have taken the sequel trilogy in a different direction. And I pitched it to her as the trailer, and I wish we could have like a mock-up trailer here, but we don't.
Unfortunately.
Right.
The technology's not available to us.
So basically, like, it's typical Star Wars trailer. You got your Stormtrooper fanfare and all that type of stuff. And then your money shot, though, is it comes in, the camera comes in, and it's Leia in a thunderstorm. Right?
Thunderstorm.
And what looks like there's an apprentice next to her.
Somebody.
Watching her.
Who is it?
As she suspends every thunderbolt in the air. Just picture that.
Just
Leia.
majesty.
Older Leia, so I guess General Leia.
General, of course it'd be General Leia.
Right.
She is a queen.
Yes. Suspending every thunderbolt in the air. And that's your money shot. And the apprentice, I was saying, after I said that, I was like, okay, the apprentice could be Ben. You have Luke do some voiceover, but it's really like that. That's your shot. And how did you feel when I told you that?
I would pay all of the money. I would pay your money to see that. Can you imagine General Leia just like, I don't know if any of you guys watching have ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you haven't, you should definitely do that.
You're talking about the cartoon, or?
What else is there? It's just the cartoon.
That's true. They never made anything else.
No, it's just
true.
the cartoon.
Right.
But there's this one scene where one of the waterbenders, it's like a rainstorm, and she like suspends all of the drops of water.
Is
And
it
it's
Katara?
like
Did you do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the most glorious scene. Now imagine that, but with lightning and General Leia.
Because we never got to see her, like, use the Force. If you're, like, a book nerd,
I mean,
then in the Now Legend stuff, you
Mary
know that
Poppins.
she did. Wow. Okay. So, we never got to see her use the Force.
We didn't, but yeah, in the books, she's like actually, like, she gets to use it. She's a Jedi, like her brother, like her father.
Right. So getting into the story, so we set it up where the old order. Is that what we said? The old order has become a blind cult. Oh yeah, old order become a blind cult. How do they further the legacy of the Jedi without repeating the history? And what evil would be out there? Trying to figure out how to handle like these newcomer guys, because we don't really want to fall into the trap, right, of having necessarily like a big bad.
No.
Like, we killed Palpatine.
We did it.
We killed Vader.
We did it.
We blew up 2 Death Stars.
2 of them.
Now it's time to let like the rats come out of the alley. Like, who
There
is
are
being
other
suppressed
villains.
by the
There
bad
are
guys?
other bad guys. It's not just the one. There are others. Like, it's not just Darkseid. It's also like Joker, Riddler, and all of the other guys. It's not. Let's let the other guys come out of the woodworks. You know, let's let them.
She did amazing crossover right there. I really didn't know where she was going with Darkseid and Joker, but I realized that Darkseid is a DC villain, and we're doing Darkseid like Star Wars. That was nice.
Yeah, just a big bad scary.
Yeah. There's other people. There are other villains in the Star Wars universe.
There's gotta be.
Yeah, there's tons. And it doesn't always have to be Sith. What's his name? Timothy Zahn. Unclear how to pronounce his last name, spelled Zahn, has given us a great villain in Thrawn. Thrawn is one of the greatest Star Wars villains of all time.
Terrifying, and he's just a person. He's like blue.
He's a blue person.
Yeah, but he's just
blue like skin and evil, not blue likes that.
He's essentially just like a regular guy, but like all of his evil comes from just how he thinks and learns and analyzes everything, and he was terrifying to watch in Rebels. So
insert Rebels clip.
Native trinket.
It's a Kalikori, a revered Twi'lek heirloom passed from parent to child through generations, worthless to outsiders, priceless to family.
Yes, well, she stole it.
Yes, but why? War. It's all you ever known, isn't it? You were so young when you survived the Clone War. No wonder you're as equipped in spirit to fight as well as you do. War is in your blood. I study the art of war, work to perfect it. But you were forged by it.
Sir, she's just a peasant.
It doesn't matter where we come from, Admiral. Our will to be free is what's going to beat you.
You dare!
Slavin, please. You embarrass me in front of our host.
Host? What?
May I introduce Hera Syndulla, rebel pilot, freedom fighter, and military leader, daughter of your nemesis.
So we'll go quickly through what the trilogy would be, and then we'll go a little bit into each film, and then we'll be out of here. So episode 7, if we had it to do, would have been about the twins. The twins meaning Luke and Leia, right?
Because really, we don't know much about. Like we see them when they're like 16 to 20 something.
Definitely 19.
19 to 20 something. Well, we
okay.
don't. Whatever. 19 to 20 something. We see them at that age, but it's like we never really go into them. It's like Luke's story.
Like Luke got the Force.
Yeah.
Learn how to use the Force, and we never got to see them develop
and
or work
off.
together and fight together,
which would be cool.
Right, it's amazing stories to tell. Which is
siblings working together.
Exactly,
super.
It's a powerful thing. So we had the episode 7 would have been about the twins, kind of like where they're at. Luke doing a lot of processing. Leia, like we said, she's stopping the lightning. She's got powers. We would definitely still have Ben be born. So Leia and Han are watching Ben be born, or they're not watching him be born.
She definitely wouldn't be watching him be born.
Leia and Han have been, and he's like 7. Nobody wants to watch anybody be born.
But it would be Han, not Leia, anyway.
Leia. Oh my God, yeah, Leia.
Like she couldn't. She'd be doing The birth giving. But anyway.
We may or may not fix this in post.
I don't think we will.
But yeah, so Leia and Han have Ben, who's 7. Luke, you know, he's doing his Jedi thing. He's trying to figure it out. But also, we would have him deal with, like, his own kind of, like, crisis of conscience as far as, like, falling in love and having a mate and all that type of thing. Because...
As all Jedi do.
Right, even though it was against the rules. And he never really got to do that. He doesn't really know what that life is like. And so, what is
I don't
it
think
when...
he technically knows what the rules are at this point.
Right.
He's still, like,
what are the
learning through
rules
the
when you
Force,
get
like-
to, like, make them up?
Just, I mean, you have the Force Ghosts, but it's really just you on your own. You just you
Right.
go.
So the episode 7 would be a real... It would be super Star Warsy, but like a real, like, feel-good movie, in essence. Think
A
like...
family movie, in essence. So,
Yeah, like Return of the Jedi, how it felt. There would be some, like, some conflict and stuff and some bad guys. But how Return of the Jedi felt. Like, it was very, very wholesome. I'm trying to think what other... Or even if you've seen Rebels or Clone Wars.
kind of more Rebels, like how the...
Yeah, definitely more Rebels. Yeah, Clone
how they
Wars
felt.
turned a corner and it got dark.
It got dark.
But yeah, Rebels. Just, like, Rebels feels like a hug from Star Wars.
It's such a
while
good-
still...
It's such a good show.
It is.
Like, just the way they all the
Filoni is a
characters, like, they interact with each other, and it's like you can see that it's a family, but it doesn't ever take away from, like, we're in the middle of a war. Like, that's a good, like, the way that it balances.
Yeah, and so 7 would be that, where we see the characters we know. You know, we give them some, you know, bad guy thing to figure out.
Who's
And
not a main, who's not a big guy.
who's not a main.
Who's not a main.
But it would be super compelling because, and it would be super compelling, but it would not be overblown or drawn out like the Phantom Menace, where it's like, okay, we've watched 2 hours of them just do a whole lot of family
about-
stuff, and this is boring. No, so 7 would be all about the twins. 8 would be all about Leia. So here's where I like to show that you can have a good idea that could be better executed. So 8 would have Ben get kidnapped. So we're obviously blazing by the whole movie, because if we sat here and detailed all 3 films, like, we'd just be here
And I
forever.
really wouldn't know who would want to watch us talk about movies we are creating. Like, we would... The runtime of us talking would be about the runtime of the actual movie.
It would
and
be.
We don't
It
need
would
that
be.
right now. That's not what this is.
However, Filoni, Kathleen, Bob,
if you
guys
want to,
us on
if
your
we are
documentaries,
willing to, we are just
definitely,
happily...
behind
we're
the
here
scenes,
waiting.
the
Just look at
voiceover,
us.
the
Look at us.
commentary
We're right
version.
here. Anytime you need
It's
us.
like, you know,
Happily.
representation.
I will give you my number in the comments.
I'm not responsible for what happens to you at that point. I might be canvassing for another sister host.
Another.
Ambush in the alley because she gave her phone number.
It's
to
just
some
for
internet
Dave.
people.
It's just for Dave. Oh,
Anyways, so episode 8 would be all about Leia, right? Because we would have Ben get kidnapped
We would.
by the big bad, or not
The
like
smaller bad.
yeah, the smaller
Like
big
the
bad.
mid-tier bad.
There you go. The average size bad.
Like, not big, but not little. He's a normal bad. Continue. The normal
So we have
size
him
bad.
get kidnapped. Luke goes after him because that's what he does. He's a Jedi Master. And Han also goes after him. Is that what we have here? Yeah. Han also goes after him. Luke gets there just as Han gets killed. So I would still keep Han getting killed, but I would do it in the 8th, not the 7th film.
And also a lot earlier in his life, if Ben's only like 12, 13 at this point.
Yeah, because you're supposed to skip time when you do Star Wars movies. You're not supposed to just go back to back. So...
Okay.
What?
Okay. Anyway.
That was fine. Yeah. I didn't say anything. I just... According to, you know, that's how George Lucas did it, and, you know,
We
that's
like to
how
listen to
J.J.
George.
Abrams did it. So that's...
George,
yeah.
JJ, look at us. Following.
So yeah, so some time would have gone past, so Ben's kidnapped, Han goes after him, Luke goes after him, Luke gets there right as Han gets killed. Luke gets there right as Han gets killed. Luke snaps at that point, right? So he doesn't go full dark side, but kind of like how he dipped in Return of the Jedi, where he
Like, it's there.
yeah.
It's there. It's definitely present. It's just... We all have a dark side.
Exactly.
He just kind of definitely tapped into his a little bit more than he wanted to that one time.
Right, And I think like, so obviously there was a lot to be said about how he was portrayed in The Last Jedi. But I think that there is a way to show Luke's dark side, because Luke's story has never been about the fact that he doesn't have a dark side.
No.
It's just been about how he navigates his relationship with it. And if he got there to save his nephew, so even bigger than that, he's in this vulnerable space because he's like, okay, we beat the main bad guys. We're kind of doing like our Jedi, Star Wars, Galactic Police thing. Maybe I'll open myself up to love. I've been seeing this woman. My nephew gets kidnapped. I go out to rescue him. My best friend's there. My best friend gets killed.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that like scene though of him just losing it for a second? Like not completely, but it slips.
Right.
It's
like
just
that eye twitch. The eye twitch. Yeah. And if you've ever been like vulnerable or chose to be vulnerable to somebody and it like backfired on you, then you know what? I'm done with being vulnerable. It's just time to like kill people.
We're gonna rage for just a hard minute,
right.
And then we're gonna circle back and realize that we probably shouldn't have raged. But in that moment, it was what you felt was necessary. And watching your best friend die after trying to rescue your nephew and trying to figure out what the Jedi Order is gonna be, I feel like that's a fair time to rage. Like,
absolutely.
If there was a time to rage, it would be then.
Yeah, and he has the total conflict of, I saved my dad, I saved the galaxy, I saved my sister, I saved all my friends, I got to see my nephew be born, and my best friend got killed anyways. And so at that point, he would then decide, not necessarily to be a Sith, but he doesn't know if he wants to be a Jedi either. But then guess what? That then makes Leia the last Jedi. Exactly. So now Leia's the last Jedi. And so that's your conflict for 8. And 9, so 7's all about the twins, Luke and Leia. 8 is all about Leia. 9 is all about Ben realizing there's always going to be need for Jedi leadership. So what you would have in 9 is Leia trying to coax Luke to not go completely evil. Luke's having his own inner journey. But Ben, as he's watching them, he's realizing that the answer is not to get rid of the Jedi. But he's, again, similar themes that we've seen before, but it's from the other side. Seeing his mom as the last Jedi, right? And she's like dealing with Luke and she's off across the galaxy and she's doing stuff. He's like, oh, we need more Jedi because if mom's the last one, what happens when she's gone? And like it or not, there's just some things only Jedi can do.
That's why there was an order. That's why it was on for so many thousands of years, because the Jedi are the peacebringers, or should have been.
Right. And they got corrupted by politics.
Man, politics.
Their 45th, possibly, Galactic Senate ruler.
45. Never really liked that number.
Yeah, it's not really a good number. Anyway. So Ben's whole conclusion is like, okay, so there can't just be no Jedi, but he knows that the Republic, the Knights of the Old Republic, and then the Knights that were in like the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon era, that they failed massively, which goes back into the question asked in episode 7, which is, how do you honor the legacy without repeating the history? And his answer to that is
the Knights of Ren.
Man, I wish we knew Photoshop to put some special effects right there.
I don't know if would that be Photoshop?
Illustrator? I don't know things.
Maybe.
I'm a writer and a TV personality.
And I only draw with pen and pencil, so.
You paint.
Yeah, but that wouldn't help with this.
@visions_live. Alright. So, it's the Knights of Ren. And so the whole idea behind the Knights of Ren is that they are Force sensitive, but they're not quite as powerful as Jedi, which makes them like the perfect mix. So they can be led by Jedi, which means that there has to be more Jedi, but you don't have the same issue of there just being all these Jedi and opening themselves up to be susceptible to the things that took down the Jedi Order before.
Yeah. And there wouldn't be like as much of like an order, because that was kind of a lot of problems that happened. It would just kind of be like general guidelines more so, because the order was so strict and it constrained and it stopped them from being able to live while trying to make sure that they were like taking care of everyone else's lives, which wasn't really fair to any of them. Yeah. So it would be more like guidelines on how to live with the Force and like with everyone and like to make everything like grow and become better.
Yeah, it's like part vigilante, part community watch. That's where we are. Like community watch with the Force.
Like Dick Grayson, but with the Force.
Yeah, Dick Grayson with the Force. Not Rick.
No.
Dick. I feel like now we should censor whatever. I'm not really sure how we ended up at this point in the show. This is a child-friendly show. I just need to reiterate that.
My point was fair.
Your point was very well. I should have just left your point where it was. I didn't really need to add on to that. That was a complete fail. So anyway, so he gets the Knights of Ren, and so there's this whole story that goes on. But at the end of it, he has a bit of a collision with Luke, right? Because Luke, in his wrestling with Leia and his own like moral conundrum, Luke's kind of he ends up in a similar place, where he's like, I don't really know if the Knights of Ren are the answer. Like, maybe it should just be us. So no more Jedi, just only Skywalkers
Family
as Jedi.
affair.
Which, side note, is my idea for a Mace Windu side plot line where he kind of pulls back and he has like his whole clan and the friends from his planet be like hidden Force-sensitive police protecting the people around the galaxy in case the Jedi should ever fail. Like, imagine that. If Mace Windu had a fail-safe plan and it was him and his people. I got a whole story. Can you imagine that? Right. I got a whole story about this.
Well, he's got a nephew. Story
yeah, okay.
For another time.
That's true. We said we would stick to the trilogy here.
Trilogy.
So Luke is not really about this. And so you go through the whole story, like Luke and Leia, Ben and the Knights of Ren, and just, they're further dealing with this nemesis who they've been battling kind of like the effects of, but they haven't really had like a hardcore nemesis. They've had a lot of people that they've had to fight, but it's been no one specific. But at the end of this one, Ben goes off on a mission, very similar to Jason Solo, how he did in the books. He goes off to kind of like the edges of the galaxy because he wants to be, as one does, because he wants to be a better Jedi. And when he's out there, he has a Force vision of his father, of Han. And Han basically just affirms him like, no, you're making the right choice. You're doing the right thing. This is what you got to do. And then in the way only Harrison Ford could say, he's like, the Force be with you, kiddo. Always. Give him the Indiana Jones salute. And
can we take a second? Han, as like a Force ghost, having like a moment with his son after he died?
That's true. I wonder if they'll do that in Rise of Skywalker.
The only people who are Force ghosts are Jedi. So what kind of power does Han hold? Or has interesting. Held ever in his life period?
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, because it's only ever been the Jedi. Like, it was a whole thing that Qui-Gon had to learn from, like, Yoda after he had passed on. And that he never, like,
seen non-Force-sensitive people. Huh.
So what does that say about the possible potential Han might have had? And maybe that's why Ben is so strong. Not just the Skywalker genes. Maybe there's something in the Solos that
Han is Force-sensitive.
I guess we'll never know. But
no, we will never know.
Can you imagine?
Right. So that happens, and then that... Basically, the story then kind of like ends there. So they've kind of beaten back all these minor forces. Ben is at the edge of the galaxy. Luke and Leia get some sort of reconciliation. He gets the affirmation from Han. And the Skywalker saga, as we know it, comes to an end peacefully. It ties up the story, leaves doors open for other things.
All types of other things.
Right. And so we've honored Luke. We've honored Leia through all three movies, not just one. We've given a significant death with Han. We've shown their son. We've shown the necessity of the Jedi, and just we've shown what everyday villains look like, right? Because we don't always have.
We don't ever have.
Now I'm thinking like Phineas and Ferb. My name, ooh, my name.
He's been watching a lot of Phineas and Ferb lately.
Disney Plus. We don't have, all of us don't necessarily have like a big bad nemesis, but what we all can relate to is having a lot of people either we don't like or who just don't like us. And a lot of people who are just in the way. Like if you're trying to do something good, trying to do something right, they're just in the way. And so that's what the sequel trilogy deals with through obviously all this dramatic stuff. And yes, there would be lightsaber battles and there would be laser fights and all that type of stuff.
Training montage with the Knights of Ren. Who doesn't love a good training montage with lightsabers?
Right. What we've outlined is this is not the total story. This would just be the backbone of the sequel trilogy. Now, that being said, because Ben ends the sequel trilogy off at the edge of the galaxy, it then allows you to spin off into a trilogy all about Ben Solo.
Ben Solo.
Do you want to take this? Because we got to introduce your favorite character through this. So he's at the edge of the galaxy. He's on his own journey, and he perchance runs into this time traveling force sensitive known as
Taruga. Is she a Taruga? What is she? I don't know.
See how she just messed up my setup?
You can do it again.
Taruga.
So she is a Taruga.
Yeah.
You could have. I wanted you to say it. Just go again.
And so while he's off at the edge of the galaxy, having his adventures, he runs into a time-hopping, force-sensitive Taruga named
Ahsoka Tano.
Da, da, da. Actually, that's positive music. Woo! Thanks to Dave Filoni, we know that she survived, and it could very easily be in the sequel trilogy. Yeah.
She's somewhere in time. We don't know where. We don't know what she's doing, but we know she's out there.
The buddy cop series that we're both dying to see is Ahsoka and Sabine going off to find Ezra.
That would be awesome.
Just 4 seasons of that.
Basically writes itself.
Even if they never find Ezra, I just want to see them
just the 2 of them. That would be great.
That's it. And so Ben, anyway, so he runs into Ahsoka and gets trained by her, which is special because then you can reference Anakin. Because she knows Anakin a little bit.
Just a tad. And he doesn't know Anakin, and that would be interesting for them for her to talk about her former master, his grandfather, not great, just grandfather.
Right, just grandfather. And so you have this whole trilogy. So he's amassing this power, right? He's meeting these legendary characters. You don't necessarily have to bring in like the Lukes, the Leias, the Admiral Akbars. You don't have to do that because you've sealed that off already, and now you've got this Ben trilogy, and Ben's villain would be Thrawn.
Do you remember we were talking about him earlier? Do you remember that?
Foreshadowing. It's called foreshadowing. It's a callback. Oh my gosh. I just ran up on me on my cell phone. He used to call me on my cell phone. No. Alright. I don't even think that song's cool anymore.
It's not.
Kiki. Okay, so so Ben, his villain is Thrawn, right? So he's counseling with Ahsoka, possibly depending on how you want to do it, have him counseling with like the ghost of Ezra if we want to play Ezra's dead,
or the Bendu,
the manifestation of the Force.
The Bendu's cool.
She's a huge fan of the Bendu.
I really like him.
I was only kind of like an okay fan of the Bendu, but I know that you.
I don't actually even know why, but I really like how like what exactly the Bendu is, because he is the Force, and we've never really had a personification of the Force or anything like that. But just the way he kind of helped guide Ezra, and even Kanan with his like blindness, like the way he was just had him trust wholly in the Force and not in himself. Mm-hmm. The Bendu's where it's at. I feel like the Bendu would be a really cool thing, especially with Ben like trying to essentially remake the entire like how the Jedi are seen and everything like that. I feel like having direct counsel by the Force itself would be like a really important thing for him, as well as like Ahsoka, who has lived a whole lot of life, and she would be important counsel. But the Bendu,
and she's a huge fan. So we have Ben and the Bendu. We have him fighting off. Because one doesn't really fight Thrawn directly.
No, you just kind of.
So he has to like go through Thrawn's maze, and he's trying to figure it out, and he's getting frustrated. And then also like he's Ben, so he's the descendant of Anakin Skywalker, so he's got a little hot-headedness to him. So he's learning all these things. He's going through just like the gamut of stuff that Thrawn is setting up for him. And this is what his trilogy is about. And so in the third episode of this spin-off trilogy about Ben Solo, which, by the way, this then allows you to bring in a young character, allows you to bring in new worlds and new characters, and it doesn't do anything to the original, I guess what would be the original 9 now. So it's like we've been able to honor one, open the door to something new to the future, and Ben is the connecting tissue without there being anything unnecessary.
You're struggling for a word, you can't find it.
Anything.
Well,
okay, so at the end, and this is where we tricked you guys a little bit, and this is why it would work. So we've sealed off the Skywalker saga. We know that they're over there. We've only referenced them in both of Ben Solo's spin-off trilogy films, in I guess his own 1 and 2. We've referenced them, but it's not really about them because he's on the edge of the galaxy and he's doing other stuff.
They're done. It's old news, you know.
Maybe he like calls mom or something, but not really. He's on the edge of the galaxy. He's doing his own thing. But in the third one,
being on the edge of the galaxy isn't enough reason to call your mom.
I mean, how would you get cell service out there?
Well, it wouldn't be cell phones, definitely.
I mean,
have holograph.
Yeah, but just
I would call you mom if I was on the edge of the galaxy. I just want to let you know that.
I would not. I'm on the edge of the galaxy. I'd take a picture and bring it to you. Yeah, and then she'd run into the hyperspace lane and evaporate because she wasn't paying attention.
None of what you said made any sense.
Yes. Anyways, we're out of time for this. Meaningless arguments. So in the final one, he goes up against Thrawn, but Thrawn is such a clever bad guy that Ben ends up over his head and out of his depth. And true somewhat to what my contemporary has just stated, if he's in that moment of deep crisis, his force pulse would echo across the galaxy. We've seen that the Skywalkers, and by extension the Solo, are very, very connected. We saw it with Luke and Leia. We saw it with Anakin and Shmi. I just realized that Shmi Skywalker shares the same name as Captain Hook's right hand.
Yeah, you said Shmi, and I was like, wait, what are we talking
Yeah.
about? I lost, I was completely out of it for a second.
That's so awkward.
Like Shmi, oh yeah, of course,
that's
Anakin's
so
mom. That
anyway,
makes
so we
much
saw
more
it with
sense.
Luke and Leia, we saw it with Anakin and Shmi, and so he has this force pulse, right, that comes across the galaxy, and Leia's like, Ben's in trouble, and so Leia rallies with Luke to go out and rescue Ben. Ahsoka, who's close by, right? Ahsoka, who's either close by already or doing some other part of the mission, she shows up, and in the final battle scenes of this third installment of Ben Solo's trilogy, you have Luke and Leia, Ahsoka, and Ben Solo fighting back to back with lightsabers. Come on! That's like the ultimate like Stan Lee cameo.
Come on!
You just reference it, and doing it this way, like you can bring Luke and Leia in for this incredible battle, and you put them back in their saga. They don't really need to show up anymore. And we've also completed Ben Solo's trilogy, so we can continue with Ben. We can go in different directions, but just imagine that scene, like Luke and Leia back to back, Ben and Ahsoka back to back. The poetry of Ahsoka and Luke fighting together. Come on. Mother and son, Leia and Ben fighting together.
And then when, I think we had it written down somewhere, but when Ben finally goes up to Thrawn and they have their whatever moment after all of the things have happened,
right.
He just kind of looks at him and he's like, I am a Jedi, like my mother before me.
Boom!
Oh!
Flip the table.
Come on!
That's it.
Come
cut
on!
the track. That's it.
Yes!
Bars. That chills.
Take my money.
John Williams or
Please.
His favorite protege doing the music. That's the moment, honestly. Like,
yeah, like the music swells.
I don't even hate this anymore. That's the moment.
I am a Jedi, like my mother before me.
That's how you honor Leia. That's how you honor character like that. So, obviously we can take time in future episodes. A little bit of a delayed reaction there. We can take time.
I realized it was just me alone with my papers up here.
We can take time in future episodes to really break down. Okay, what would episode 7 look like? What would episode 8 look like? What would episode 9 look like? We could, if you guys want that. But from this one, we just really wanted to paint like this is the sequel trilogy. We know we went off into the Ben trilogy, which we feel like is a natural offshoot.
Yeah, it's directly connected to the sequel.
It makes sense. And it satisfies like what Disney and Lucasfilm are trying to do, which is take Star Wars using elements that are familiar, but move it into the future and not have to be tied to Luke and Leia and all the legacy characters. This allows you to do that.
Connected yet separate.
Right. And also it does so in a way, again, where you can kind of, you cap off the Skywalker trilogy nicely. You know. And people can enjoy that. You want to watch the Skywalker trilogy? Boom, it's over there. It's right there for you. It's innovative. It picks up. It does everything that it needs to do. And it also sets you up to go off on a new direction, which is what Star Wars is supposed to do. It's how we got Clone Wars. It's how we got Rebels. It's how we got all the books and the comics and the video games, even going back to like the Force Unleashed, the Coder games. That's what it's supposed to do. Battlefront, the original Battlefront, Star Wars is supposed to tie up the story that it's telling and then set you off in a new direction. That's what it's supposed to do naturally. Like it builds on itself. If you ever find yourself forcing it, then you're not doing Star Wars correctly. So that's how we would do our sequel trilogy.
You know, if you were curious.
Right, if you were curious. 7 would be about the twins, Luke and Leia.
Yes.
8 would be about Ben getting kidnapped and Luke denouncing everything.
And Leia the queen herself.
Leia being the last Jedi. And then 9 would be them all kind of like reconciling, Ben starting the Knights of Ren and going to the edge of the galaxy. And littered through all that again. I mean, if you've been watching The Mandalorian, like there are all types of foul creatures and bad guys. I mean, you got the Hutts for Pete's sake. Like there's so much you can do with, again, your everyday villains to really beef out a story.
Darkseid and Thanos. Like it can just be bad people in everyday life.
Right,
like,
exactly. Everyone doesn't have to be like a top boss. There are other levels.
You work your way up to the top boss. You don't start at the top boss.
Right.
You got to get through all the little mini levels and then he's there probably.
Probably. And if you really wanted to be like artful and poetic about it, you could set it up that the villains encountered in our sequel trilogy, as well as the villains in 7 and 8 of Ben's trilogy, are all masterminded by Thrawn.
The big bad boss himself.
Right. So
and he's just a regular guy.
They tie off the Skywalker saga, but then you have this thread. It's like, oh shoot. Yeah. You don't just beat Thrawn, so then what is the story after Ben Solo's trilogy? But at this point, we're like 15 years into the future, like of actual, like, real life future. Technology is advanced. Like, we could do so much. And who knows the cartoons and stuff that could spin out of that. Like, there's just so much you could do. So
the sky's the limit.
That's our sequel trilogy. I have no idea which hands are in the frame or not. That's our sequel trilogy right there. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed it. This is our first episode. We are the Broad Spectrum Nerds. There will be many episodes.
There will be many references of other different things that you heard today.
Right. And we are going to see the Rise of Skywalker. Obviously, that last trailer, the music,
He keeps watching the trailer for the music.
I do. I just watched the trailer for the music. Not that there's no diss against the trailer, but the music it just takes me to a special place. It just makes me happy. Okay? The music just makes me happy.
And I don't know what to say. The small things in life.
Right. So we're gonna watch The Rise of Skywalker.
We will.
And then we'll be back here.
Yeah.
Maybe the next day or the day after. Somewhere within 3 days.
I mean, I would say 4.
After the Rise of Skywalker.
4 fingers. So,
somewhere within 3 to 4 days.
Or so.
After the Rise of Skywalker.
We'll be here. It'll be real quick.
Talking to you guys again.
Talking to you guys.
But we're going to be telling you how we would have done the Rise of Skywalker, right? Because it's one thing, as we've seen with this sequel trilogy that exists. It's one thing to say, like, hey, if what exists didn't exist, this is what we would do in this place.
That's what we just did here.
Right. It's another thing to be like, okay, we have these 2 things. How do we land this plane? What's the best, most effective way to land this plane?
We have all these points.
Mm-hmm.
How would we put our own twist on it to make them just hit a little differently, a little harder? Let's just see what they can do.
Right. And we would give it to you now, except We haven't seen the Rise of Skywalker.
It hasn't come out yet.
But after we see the Rise of Skywalker, we will be here giving you like, okay, this is what happened. We'll keep it real quick. Again, we're not here to bash. Watch our theme song. We're not here to bash anyone. We're not here to down talk anyone. But it's really just going to be like, okay, this is what they did. This is how we, your lovely melanated broad spectrum nerds, would have done it. Yeah. Is there anything else that we need to cover here?
I don't believe so. I think we did. Do we have outro music?
Yes.
Then let's play the outro music.